Hey guys, welcome into today's video. I have a ton of blushes for us to try, a bunch of new releases, some I've had for a little while, and one that even launched today, which is Friday. I thought we would do a blush try on of all of the new blushes that have released. Some of them a little bit older than others, but I literally feel like I've just been collecting them here. So I will put timestamps in the description box of each of the blushes in case you guys want to skip ahead. So let me show you guys what we have on today's agenda. I think this one is a little bit older of a release. This is the Cheek Slime from Freck in the shade Love Flush. I was not impressed with the Freck Beauty bronzer, whatever that little tiny stick thing was. So I'm hoping that I like this. I think this was like reformulated. And that's what's new about this, because this is not, I don't think, a new product. But then I think we have a limited edition velour blush lighter in Hot Cheeks from Fenty Beauty. No, it's the Hot Cheeks velour blush lighter from Fenty in Fresh Peach. And then also a little bit of an older release, but I had this, I just didn't have a video to like put it in. It's the Complexion Rescue Bronzer Blush Plus Bronzer from Bare Minerals in Kiss of Mauve, and it's a cream, I think. I'm pretty sure it's a cream. Then I have the new Color Fuse Glassy Blush Balms from Haus Labs. Then I have from the drugstore the Bright Light Blush Drops, Multi-Use Drops from Revolution. Then I have the Sun Flush Glow with Confidence from IT Cosmetics. It says blush in bronzer. Blush plus bronzer. Okay, interesting. I don't think this is like a bronzer color, but whatever. And then the one that released today was the Blush Filter Liquid Blush from Huda Beauty. That's what we're gonna do today, you guys. Let's hop into it. I have the curtains closed today because it's beaming hot right now. I came home, I stripped everything off. I got like the smallest tank on that I could possibly find, had to get my hair away from my face, and I do have the floor fan on. So if that bothers you guys, I really do apologize. Hopefully it doesn't. I'm trying to keep it cool in here for myself. Let's just go in order of how I talked about each of these. Cheek Slime Lip Plus Cheek Tint retails for $22 and it comes in 6 different shades. The description of this is a super smooth liquid cream blush with high impact pigments that blends seamlessly and dries down to a natural flush of color on any skin tone. So it's supposed to be ultra pigmented. Okay, good to know. Buildable blush. Ultra pigmented buildable blush. Okay. All right, whatever you say. This one again is in the shade Love Flush. All these little Freck products are like the smallest things ever. Love Flush is described as a bright coral. Let's swatch this out. It's like a moussey texture, so not runny at all. Oh yeah, I see it. Say pretty ultra pigmented. So I think we're gonna start here. I will leave what's on my hand and I will pick it up with a brush. All right, for this one, I'm just gonna use like a flat kabuki brush, I think, to stipple this in. It is pretty darn pigmented and I barely picked up any on this brush, but this is a pretty dense brush, so it's gonna pack the pigment anyway, or the most. It's gonna do the most here. This fan is like blowing my hair. I feel like a pretty little princess with this headband. It's a new launch at Ulta, so I just picked it up. I've been liking these to like really just, I don't know, keep the flyaways like out of my face when I'm doing my makeup. All right, so it's a pretty diffused blush. It looks very airbrushing on the skin. I barely picked up any from my hand and I let it sit there for a second, so it was a little bit dry when I started putting it on. Like it had dried down just a little bit. It's again like a moussey or whipped texture, so it's not very liquidy at all. Dries down beautifully for a natural wash of color. I think this is really pretty. That was very easy to apply. I like the way that that looks. I think the color is pretty flattering too. It says bright coral, but I don't think it's too intense. It's very beautiful, very airbrushing, doesn't emphasize any texture. It is not a radiant product at all. It dries down to more of a satin finish, maybe even a matte finish. By the way, this is 0.5 essentially fluid ounces. It's 0.507 fluid ounces. We'll just call it 0.5. It's made in the USA and has a 12-month shelf life. So far, I actually really like this. I have tested so many blush products now that I pretty much can get a sense of whether or not I can see myself really enjoying this. This is definitely a product I can see myself enjoying. All right, let's move on to Fenty next. Let's go for Fenty. So this is another limited edition product from Fenty. It retails for $26. It's called the Hot Cheeks Velour Blush Lighter. It only comes in 3 shades. It is described as a limited edition blush and highlighter hookup. An all new limited edition baked blush with a creamy velvety texture that melts into the skin. I think the lineup of shades they're calling a peachy pink shades that'll give you color flush of blush is what they say. I have mine again in the shade Fresh Peach, which I believe was like the lightest looking shade based on the photos. It's described as a mid-tone peach with gold pearl. Ooh, the packaging is really cool. Ooh, I like that. It's actually really neat looking. It does come with a little cover over it. And here is the product. It looks so soft. It looks like the minute I touch it, it's going to have an indentation. Let's swatch it. No, it's actually pretty solid formula. I mean, it's soft, but it's not fragile. It doesn't look like it's gonna smash. Ooh, yeah. I love peachy tones with gold or orange sparkle. If you guys have heard me say that before, I hope you're not tired of hearing it. I really enjoy that kind of formula. I think I'm gonna take a fluffier brush that I use for powder quite frequently. It's just an EcoTools angled powder brush, and I'm gonna dip straight in. I have actually picked up a couple shades that are very similar to this recently, and they're not the best powder formula. I'm talking about you, Dior. So I'm hoping I can get a shade like this that plays really well with cream products underneath. Holy smokes, that's gorgeous. All right, so the base pigment here is not very intense. I dipped the brush back in several times and it's just maybe dense enough brush to give me a ton of pigment. If you guys can see, it has a lot of top gold, really, really prominent in the pigmentation, like maybe more so than like the base pigment, at least initially using the top layer of the product. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I want to see if it like transfers to my finger though. A little bit of it transfers, not a ton. I don't think it like overemphasizes any more texture than I normally have on this side of my face using a powder product or just kind of any smoother highlight. The formula was really, really smooth. You can really see that gold. So this is more of a highlighter than blush. I know it's a blush highlighter hybrid, but I probably could even get away with using this product as just a highlighter because the base pigment isn't super intense, but it's nice for an on-the-go little bit of flush when you want to have some sheen, when you want to have a little bit of pizzazz. I don't think it's sparkly. There's no chunks of sparkle. It's more like yellow or gold pigment. It's kind of how I would describe this. I personally like this. I think that was very easy. Like I mentioned to you guys before, I do really love a blush product that has a gold sheen, a gold shimmer, a little bit of gold pigmentation. I think that's beautiful. What I will say about this is I doubt this is going to be a super long lasting product because it's just not intense base pigment and it's pretty light anyhow, just with using like a fluffier brush like this. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's everything I was hoping it would be, maybe a little bit less base pigment than I initially thought in this particular shade anyway. All right, guys, we are ready to move on. I have been using the Revolution Skin Silk today to use as my base, and that's what these blushes are going on top of. I want to say this is like a pretty satin finish, light to medium coverage foundation. I really like it. It's easy to take on and off because it's a very thin formula. Let's move into the Bare Minerals one. So 2 new releases from them, and one is actually a liquid highlighting blush, but I picked up the liquid bronzer, which is the blush and bronzer. And this is exclusive to Ulta. They don't sell this on Sephora's website. Maybe at least not yet. For now, it's not on there. This one retails for $28. It comes in 5 different shades, which don't look like they go very deep. It is an innovative clean blush and bronzer gel cream hybrid that combines the rosiness of a blush with the dewy sun-kissed glow of a bronzer. Okay, this is described as having like all-day wear, luminous finish that mimics your skin's natural radiance after a day in the sun. Okay, I have mine in the shade Kiss of Mauve, which I want to say I have in like the highlighting blush as well. It's just described as a bronzing mauve. That's it. This is a cream formula, cream gel formula, which I actually really do like because this is a like liquid or cream formula. You guys, I'll let you know it has 0.5 fluid ounces, so it's like the same as the Freck. This one actually has a little bit more. This one has a 12-month shelf life, and this one is made in the USA. I forgot to mention Fenty's, but Fenty's is made in Italy. Cool. Okay. Italian baked formula from Fenty on that one. All right, you can immediately tell it's a gel texture. It seems pretty pigmented. I might do the same thing and just pick up what I've swatched here. But you can really see the warmth in this mauve. So it'd probably be a pretty good blush bronzer type product. Let's go on this side. All of these so far seem like extremely easy to apply. They're not making it difficult at all. These two cream products, because I think the Freck is cream, doesn't lift anything up. They look very airbrushed. They're very, very easy to apply. Did I already say that? I don't know, but they are. This one is not as intense as the Freck one. So maybe we'll go in with just a little bit more and see if we can build it up without it looking terrible. I can see the radiance. The left side of my face has a little bit more texture than the right side. So I always notice like a highlighting product or something that's a little bit more dewy or radiant, emphasizing the texture on the left side of my face a little bit more than the right side. Okay, so that didn't pick up anything underneath. It's perfect. It's slightly radiant. This looks like more of a buildable formula. It's not super intense. It was very foolproof, very easy to apply, nothing complicated. It has a little bit of a stickier finish though, so it will, I think, lift a little bit. It is dewy. It's not the kind that completely dries down, but it's also not like gross and sticky. It just has a very slight stick to it. This one overall is pretty sheer. I was expecting this to be a little bit more intense. I want to see if I can even build it up just a little bit more. I don't want to go too crazy, but I would like to see if you could get it deeper, simply because all of these shades, to me, and I'll pop up a picture if I haven't done it already, are lighter. So if you can build it, it might work well on a deeper complexion, having some fairly light shades in this line. I think that built up. That built up really nicely. It's laying well on the skin. Still doesn't look too heavy. It blends in really nicely. Now it's a little bit more sticky than it was. Yeah, it's got tack to it. This is me trying to get it off. Like, I really have to rub, so it seems like it's going to stick to my skin pretty well. It's not going to slide around. Decent formula. Already, I'm liking that one as well. I'm liking all of these formulas. I wish I hated some of them, but I don't. I've got one that's a little bit more mattified, or a satin finish and a cream formula. I've got that highlighting blush, and now I have this one that is giving me the radiant finish. I don't know if I would use this all on its own, but I feel like if you're somebody who does like a product like that, you could. I don't think this is too bronzy of a mauve. I think this is just one's take on a warmer toned mauve, if that makes sense. I think you could still get away with wearing a bronzer with this product. Okay, I think the next one I mentioned was Haus Labs, so that's what we're going to do next. So this is called the Color Fuse Longwear Hydrating Glassy Lip and Cheek Blush Balm Stick. That name, all right. There are 6 shades in this. I picked up Glassy Palmello, which is described as pink peach. I'm shocked that I got a pink peach and I didn't go for Glassy Hibiscus, which is a deep mauve. I guess I'm just feeling these pink shades right now. It's supposed to be a serum-based, high pigment blush with more than 70% skincare and proprietary complexes that hydrate and make skin look plumper, all in a long-wearing glassy balm. She's got her normal fermented arnica, which is supposed to visibly reduce redness and irritation. The goji berry complex fermented shionko. I don't know what that is. So yeah, another product that you can use on both the lips and cheeks, just like the Freck one. This retails for $34. This is made in Korea and has an 18-month shelf life on it, which I'm a little surprised to see with so much skincare, because it said, what, 70% skincare in it, and because it is a product that is a balm. So, you know, a serum skincare balm product, to me, 18 months seems like a pretty long time. Here's the packaging on this one, and this is 0.18 ounces. This feels actually pretty sturdy. It's not like half bad packaging. You've got like the Haus Labs lid that looks like the foundation. The stick just rolls up. Is mine not rolling? Yes, it is. This is how much product comes in it. It's actually not a lot. This looks like it's loose on here. Oh, it's not. Yeah, it doesn't look like a ton of product, you guys. Oh, what's going on? Oh, okay. That's how much product comes in it. And the like lines, that's actually blush right there. That's, this looks so dirty. I'm putting this back down. Putting it down, putting it down. We're not doing that. Let's swatch it. Okay, this definitely feels like a pretty sheer balm. You can see why she calls it glassy. Look at that freaking shine. There's a ton of dewiness on this. I don't know how this will dry down. This feels like it'll remain pretty sticky. It's not bad. It's not sticky in that it's like tacky, you know, that kind of sticky. It's more just like a wet feeling. All right, I'm gonna pick up a brush like this because it's small and this product is small. It's the Refer 04, which I feel like is made for liquids. I'm pretty sure, like cream and liquids. I think this was just like a blush brush. So I'm gonna coat the whole thing. Smaller brushes like this make me a little bit nervous when applying a blush, but I think it'll be okay. So long as the product blends in pretty nicely. Ooh, guys, this is dewy. They describe it as a glassy finish, so that really is what this is. This looks like I sprayed water on my cheeks, doesn't it? What did they describe this as? In a long-wearing glassy balm. Oh, it was the Bare Minerals that said something about like you just came back in from the sun. This looks like I just came back in from like the rain. This is even more intense by comparison to the Makeup by Mario. Look at the fibers coming off. Soft Pop Plumping Blush Veils that also make your cheeks look super dewy and wet and like plump. This looks plump and juicy. These fibers from this brush are like all in my cheek. That's nutso, not cool. All right, this is a little bit more sheer. It's definitely not intensely buildable formula. I think it's meant to be a little bit more sheer. That is the glassiest looking blush product I have ever tried. I think where's the lid? The only things that come somewhat similar to this that are kind of glassy like this are the Makeup by Mario Soft Pop Plumping Blush Veils. Maybe the Pixie on the Glow Stick kind of looks similar to this. This is the wettest by far, you guys. Look how freaking wet my cheeks look. Would you guys agree? I look like I'm sweating. Okay, now having built this product up, it is really sticky, like actually sticky. And this is the kind of product I would worry is like lifting from my face. So if I were to like touch it, just naturally kind of touching my face, it would lift it up and move the product around. I think it definitely needs some decent amount of dry time before you go and you start messing around with it. Because it almost looks like it gives a little bit of a flush of color, you know, kind of staining. And it would be nice if it did that to the cheeks and the glassiness was just on top and like not messing with the pigmentation. Well, you saw it here. This is first impressions. I don't know how I feel about it. It's intense. I was not expecting it to be this glossy and this wet. It's wet. And I feel like in a couple of spots it has picked up a little bit, which I'm trying to like stamp out. I think if you wanted a true makeup, no makeup, and you really wanted to have that really glassy skin look, this would be a nice product if you didn't want a ton of pigmentation. I don't know personally how I feel about it and whether or not I'm gonna get a ton of use out of it. I think it's definitely unique in my collection, but I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing at the current moment. There are the other blush products that I do prefer a little bit more than this. This one has radiance. That one looks like I'm freaking soaking wet. This one is even more intense than this one, and I thought this one was pretty intense. I don't think you can build it up though. I think this is about as deep as it gets. Whew, guys, I think it's unavoidable. Every time I touch it, it's definitely lifting up a little bit. I don't know if it's taking up the pigment. It's very difficult for me to tell from here, but you guys might be able to see, just like by me touching it, could definitely be picking up some of the actual blush. This next one is the most limiting of all of them. This only comes in this one shade, which is Rosy Pink from Makeup Revolution. It's called the Bright Lights Blush Drops. They also came with, I think, Bright Lights Bronzing Drops and Highlighting Drops. But based on my preferences, that I would enjoy the blush drops more than both the bronzing drops and the highlighting drops. Not a huge fan of highlighting drops or just like liquid or cream highlighters in general. I have a pretty narrow collection. And then additionally, the bronzing drops just looked maybe a little bit too radiant. So this is described as an instant drop of rosy radiance. Blush and glow your own way with the Revolution Bright Light Blush Drops. These effortless buildable liquid blush drops are your must-have to build a natural illuminated flush of color. So it's supposed to be an illuminating formula that has glow without glitter. Okay, so more buildable. This has only a 6-month shelf life, you guys, and probably has the most amount of product. It's 0.77 fluid ounces. So this one so far is the biggest, and it actually says on here, which is funny, it says use alone for natural glow or mix with Skin Silk foundation or mix with Miracle Cream moisturizer. Okay, so it's saying like mix it with this one and it'll look really good. It could give you like a flush of rosy pink glow. I would put in bronzing drops into a foundation. I probably wouldn't put blush drops in, but to each their own. This does retail for $12. This one is made in Taiwan. Does this come off like this? No, it just twists. I'm definitely interested to see how pigmented this is. This again feels like another whipped texture, but this one feels like a gel formula. A lot like the bronzer, but not as thick. And by the way, and I did forget to mention this is definitely a gel texture that locks down on your cheeks. It didn't want to come off at all. It was really, really locked down on there, and I really had to scrub to get it off. That's going to be a super long lasting formula. I can already tell. The Haus Labs one claims to be long lasting. I just don't know if that's true. I'm going to pick up another like flat kabuki style brush. I imagine this is going to be pretty sheer because this is probably the thinnest formula so far, even more so than the one from Haus Labs. And it makes sense, especially if they're marketing this as a mix-in type product. It's gotta be pretty sheer and pretty thin. I laid that one on like thick. My son is just downstairs screaming his head off. This camera totally picks him up, I'm sure. Sorry. This one is a very, very wet formula. It's very thin. I don't know if it's that apparent, but it's really emollient. I'm not getting intense pigmentation out of this. This is going to be the sheerest of them all, I'm pretty sure, even over the Haus Labs. I think just because of this shade, and also this is not a universal shade. This is not even going to show up, I think, on deeper complexions. I could be wrong. I have no way of testing that, obviously. Okay, this one picked up the foundation underneath a tiny bit. You really can see it when you get close up, especially right here on my cheekbone. It's moved some of the foundation underneath it. I don't love these. It's decent pigmentation. It's not bad. It's a nice little flush of color. I would say this comes out a lot warmer. This was a clean brush. There was nothing else on it. It had not been used since I washed it last. So there's no other product on here. This is just a really warm pink shade, which I wasn't expecting because this looks very pink and it's in the shade rosy pink, which it's not super rosy. I think you see right here how much warmer it is. This, when you buff it out, looks a lot rosier, but it's an interesting color. It's definitely much more warm, here we go, than I was expecting in a shade like this. Even on my cheeks and my undertone, I feel like this is almost like peach or coral. Like a bit of pink and a bit of peach in here, but like to mix in almost evenly, I feel like it looks more coral on my skin. So I don't think this is gonna work on everybody. I don't think it's a rosy pink shade. I think it lifted a little bit of the foundation. It has one review on here with 5 stars, and someone says, perfect everyday blush. I really like putting a couple drops on a synthetic brush and stippling it onto my cheeks. It gives a gorgeous glowy flush. I was interested in this as a dupe for the Drunk Elephant Rosy Blush Drops, and I have to say this Revolution version is more pigmented and lasts longer on my skin. It's not necessarily lacking pigmentation in that there is zero. There's decent pigmentation here. I would say that I used quite a bit of product to build it up to this, but I can definitely see that it's disturbed the foundation underneath. It's not as bad as some products that I've used where it's very, very noticeable. If you weren't looking at it super close, you probably couldn't tell, but it does not look seamless at all. So this is probably not a product, honestly, that I'll end up like keeping in my collection. I might pass this along for 12 bucks to like my sister or my little niece or something. I don't know if this is gonna be something that I absolutely love. Okay, let us move on to the IT Cosmetics one. So this retails for $34. This one comes in 5 different shades. I have mine in the shade Sunlit 10. It doesn't describe like what that is, but I think it's a pretty light pink shade. This comes in a glass jar. It says it's a sun cream blush that is an effortlessly buildable cream blush and bronzer in one that provides a naturally sun-kissed look. Blendable and buildable cream blush plus bronzer in one with ultra sun-kissed pigments for a beautiful color payoff. Can be worn on bare skin for a healthy glowing skin effect or layered over foundation to wake up your makeup. Okay, very good. The shades in this are all very warm toned, it looks like, because it's supposed to be a blush slash bronzer type product. So it calls itself a 95% solid serum. It has a 12-month shelf life. It was made in the USA. And this has a net weight of 0.63 ounces. And here is what it looks like in there. It looks like it's pretty emollient. Looks like someone also stuck their finger in it. No, it doesn't. Just kidding. Wow, this is creamy, you guys. Creamy. As I'm swatching it, I'm trying to think of something that it reminds me of, but I can't think of it. Almost like a foundation, like a balm foundation. That is so emollient. It is slipping. Like, it's very, very slippy. No stick to it whatsoever. It seems to be locking onto my skin, but not in a way that's like sticky. Emollient without any tack to it whatsoever. I think the way that I'm gonna apply this one is I'm going to dip my Rare Beauty blush brush. This is the soft pinch blush brush, and pick up some of the product on here and then like tap it off on my hand just a bit and then go into the cheeks. I think this is pretty intensely pigmented too. Wow, I'm barely tapping this onto my cheeks. So far this is really pretty. Again, I don't know if this is like a bronzer type product. This one is a lot less warm than I thought it was going to be. I think this is even less warm than this one. I would say in sunlit, for these 5 shades, this is the one that looks the most cool from the pictures online. Yeah. Probably not something that I would wear in absence of a bronzer. Again, I don't think that this one, the way that this one comes closer to looking like a dual product. I just minced my words all around, but I don't think this one comes as close to a dual product as this one does. It almost completely dried down on my hand, like once I blend it in. Let me see if I can build this color up. I just dipped the brush back straight into the product and I didn't tap it out on my hand. I like the way this is looking. It has a little bit of radiance to it. I like the amount of pigmentation. I like that this seems to be a little bit of a cooler shade on me, and it didn't disturb anything underneath. I also like that this jar is pretty big, so you're not like digging your blush brush in it and it's like getting all over the sides. It's a decent size. Okay, it's a decent size. Again, a glass jar. Okay, it is definitely drying down. It is radiant with a little bit of dewiness that's kind of like not transfer resistant when you initially start. But this is one of those products that dries down pretty well as it continues to sit there. I'm touching it and it's not picking up anything. Nice amount of radiance, but no sparkle, no shimmer. I feel like this looks very healthy on the cheeks. And I'm comparing it to this one. This is totally picked up my foundation right here. It's all patchy right in this spot, where this is meshing beautifully with the foundation. Like, I started to like scratch myself. So even for $34, you're still getting a decent amount of product. You're getting a glass component. And so far, I think a very beautiful formula. Okay, for the final blush, you guys, let's go into the one that launched today. This is the Huda Beauty Blush Filter. It is called Blush Filter Soft Glow Liquid Blush. This comes in 6 different shades. It's a pretty good range. It's supposed to be a lightweight liquid blush with buildable pigments and finely milled micro pearls for a soft focus, high impact glow. It is supposed to have a radiant finish to it. It says with application, add 3 dots of blush onto targeted areas with peanut shaped doe foot applicator, and then blend with fingertips for a luminous glow. This retails for $21. I have mine in the shade Strawberry Cream, which is listed as a dusky rose. And I think this is like a warmer toned dusty rose. This has 0.15 fluid ounces to it. It has a 12-month shelf life and it's made in South Korea. I'm hoping these are not like those liquid blushes that came out last year that were the stain blushes that were also meant for lips. I hated those, you guys. I don't know if she sells them anymore either. Yeah, she does. The lip blush cream lip and cheek stains, those were absolutely awful, and I think people like them, and I freaking hated them. I bought all freaking 5 shades and I regretted it so much. But this is a little less expensive at $21. Those were $25 a piece. Here's the doe foot applicator on this guy. I guess it's called peanut shaped, which makes it a little bit difficult to swatch unless you're doing it like straight on like this. I think that's what they mean by like you dot 3 dots on. There's a swatch. It seems like decently pigmented, and even though it's a liquid, it's very opaque. It's a stiffer formula. It kind of feels like a little bit like a gel texture if it's a liquid. But wow, that blends in like perfectly. Virtually nothing translucent about this. And you can see it has like a slight bit of a radiant finish, and it's basically almost dry and almost fully locked down on the hand, even though it has a radiance to it and it looks like it's slightly wet. We're gonna put this on both sides. I am gonna use an e.l.f. complexion duo brush. That's fine. I don't think I'm gonna start with 3 dots. I'm gonna go with 2. 1, how much do I want to do? 2. I see all the models doing 3 dots, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. All right, the dots are not blending the greatest so far. This is taking a little bit of elbow grease. All right, we got it. Okay, that's definitely pretty sheer. I think that's why they said dot 3 dots. Let's go in with 2 more. It's really moving the product around, but not necessarily blending super seamlessly. And these are not like those lip blushes. Thank goodness. Those were weird and watery, and if I were her, I don't know, I wouldn't even have them. They might be a decent lip stain formula, but no thank you for the cheeks. Even though I put 4 dots on, it didn't lift anything underneath, and it is pretty light. It's a nice buildable formula, very light, not intense even with the 4 dots that I applied. So when she says go ahead and put 3 to 4 dots on, I think unless you like something super sheer, it's probably fine to apply that much to start with. I'm gonna build it up even more. I think just a little bit more intensity here. I do hope I don't regret building it up, but I really like the way that it looks, and I would like to see just a tint darker, a smidge deeper. I think that's perfect. But that in total was 6 dots. It didn't lift up anything, and the radiance is actually very, very slight. Completely dried down on the cheeks. I don't feel like this is gonna pick up at all. And it has micro pearls in it, and I feel like because it's not a very wet formula, that it's just not overly emollient. Those micro pearls are what's making this a little bit more radiant, not necessarily that it's coming from it being a more emollient, like wet formula like the one from Haus Labs. But it did still take 6 dots. So I'm gonna be bold. I'm just gonna lay this on heavy on the cheeks and then bounce it in. I hope I didn't disturb the foundation underneath. We'll see. This takes a little bit more blending than the other ones, but I still think it does it without disturbing what's underneath, which I'm actually really shocked to see since this is such a heavier formula. And I don't mean it's heavy, I mean that it's not very emollient. It's a stiffer liquid, where some liquids are like runny, and this one's just not a runny liquid formula. I think I matched the intensity on this side from this side by just like swiping it like this. So this is truly a buildable formula that isn't going to leave your face still wet. The radiance is coming from those micro pearls. I would say this is a very, very simple liquid blush formula to work with. I like this color too, even though this was meant to be, let's see what it says in the description again, dusty rose shade. I like it because I don't think it's too warm for being a rose shade. Still, did not pick up anything underneath, and I was able to blend it in. Although when I first started, it did give me the impression that it was going to not blend in as easily. And for $21, I like this price point a little bit better than say the $34 from the IT Cosmetics. Let's do a final ranking of these blushes. In last place is going to be the Revolution Bright Light Blush Drops. this just picked up the foundation. I let it sit there for a while and I kept looking at it in the mirror. I was also called away, came back. I could still see that it had lifted up some of the foundation underneath. Don't recommend this, will be decluttering. Coming in sixth place is the one from Fenty Beauty. It's really pretty. The Hot Cheeks Velour Blush Lighter. It's just not super pigmented. As a blush product, there's just a lot more gold to it, which is a preference thing. I think I love it. It's maybe not as intense in the peachish color. Once you buff it into the cheeks, it's more like highlighter than anything. So not as intense as I was hoping for, but it is still beautiful. Next up in fifth place is going to be the one from Haus Labs. I really enjoyed this. Don't have anything else like it. I just don't think it's going to be long lasting, and I think it's going to be a trickier formula to work with because it's so glassy. I feel like it is just going to lift on itself, so it's not going to be super long lasting. I don't know if this is a blush that I want to put on to run out the door. I feel like I'm definitely going to have to pick the time and place that I'm going to apply something like this. Maybe a makeup, no makeup day, or I'm not really sure yet. It's definitely unique and interesting. I didn't hate it, but it's definitely not a set it and forget it kind of product. And then next up in fourth place is going to be the Cheek Slime from Freck Beauty. I really did like this. The ease of use was great. This is a cream product that, you know, is kind of in a, what I would consider like a liquid style. I don't mind the littleness of this, like the little tiny packaging. I think it's really cute. The thing is, I think this comes out pretty matte, so it's a pretty standard matte formulaed blush. I don't think it gave me anything extra. It didn't have super pizzazz to it, maybe the way some of the other ones did, but it was a very, very easy formula to work with. The next one up in third place is going to be the Complexion Rescue Bronzer from Bare Minerals. I don't think this was a good product for using as a blush and bronzer. I definitely probably still use a bronzer with this. I liked this little bit of radiance that it gave. I think the pigmentation was decent. I love how this locked down on the cheeks. I feel like this is going to be an extremely long-lasting product on your cheeks. It's not going to go anywhere all day, yet it still had a little bit of radiance to it. Really did enjoy that. Have nothing negative to say about it. I would say it's even tied with the one from Huda Beauty, which is called the Blush Filter. This one is not as easy to blend in. It takes a little bit longer. It's definitely a more buildable formula, and I think maybe that's kind of what I like about it over the Blonzer, which is a bit more intense in terms of pigmentation. I think I'm just reaching for a little bit more buildable of formulas these days. This one has a slight radiance, or I would say sheen to it. I don't think the radiance is coming from a glossy finish that the lights are bouncing off of necessarily. I think that it's the micro pigments that are in here that are getting the reflectiveness. I again think this is going to be a pretty long lasting formula because it feels like it's kind of on the drier side. Really, really enjoyed the buildability of this. But I have to say my number one that I enjoyed is the Glow with Confidence Sun Blush from IT Cosmetics. I really enjoyed the way that this applied, the way again that this was a very buildable formula. It seemed to completely dry down on the cheeks but gave a really, really healthy radiance. Just overall, all of the boxes were checked. It was nicely radiant and it was very, very easy to apply, and I think those were the three boxes that I was looking to check. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you were interested in checking some of these out, and maybe I helped you make a decision to pick one up or maybe not to pick one up. I'd love to hear how you would rank these blushes. As always, you guys, if you're not currently subscribed to my channel, I would love to see you subscribe. I'm out of here for this evening, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Bye guys.